The competitions we went in for in the late 70s, early 80s was part of the Model Soldier, the BMSS, which is the British Model Soldier Society, and we used to enter 90mm figures, that size figures, and 54s but one-off figures, kind of painted up and put in the competitions, and we did okay at that, really. So, and then. This shop in North Finchley that we used to go to regularly on a Saturday, Alan, me and another friend, heard the Games Workshop was starting up and they were looking for sculptors. So they said, how about taking some figures along and see if they're interested? Which is exactly what we did. We made some 28mm figures and took them along, and they said, yep, we'll take you on.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Weekender. Time for our tabletop chat. As we get stuck into the Weekender, the tabletop chat show.
Been a hell of a long week, guys. So, what's the first thing on the running order this week, Lloyd?
First thing we should probably talk about is this week's prize.
Okay, so what are we giving away?
I don't know.
We are giving away from the guys at Wargaming the Movie, which is currently just finishing up on Kickstarter. If you don't know, it's a documentary all about, wargaming in general and, what's been going on within the world of wargaming. Our prize this week, we have 5 prizes to give away. So first up, we have 2 copies of the finished DVD to give away, 2 Blu-ray copies of the finished documentary to give away, and 1 special edition copy to give away as well. For your chance to win, enter on Beasts of War, YouTube or Facebook by placing a comment on this piece of content.
Awesome! Awesome stuff. You would think I would know what the prize is considering I'm in the movie.
Yeah, you're in the movie.
I'm in the movie.
You didn't get to write the theme tune.
I didn't get to produce the theme tune, write the theme tune, perform the theme tune.
Yeah.
Ben, you've been keeping up to speed with the trailers and stuff. They're not trailers. They're like there's bits of footage that he shot that aren't going to make it into the movie that made really good sort of snippets to get people excited about it, because this is still on Kickstarter at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still on Kickstarter, entering its last week. And yeah, you're right. These are like little featurettes almost, sort of looking at some of the people that are going to be in the movie and showing off the kind of things they're going to be talking about and stuff. Yeah.
So on this week's show, we've got...
I believe it's Michael Perry we had at the beginning of this week's show, one of the best sculptors in the industry, according to Warren, and I like him a lot as well. He actually was one of the great legends of Games Workshop who actually lost his arm in a a Napoleonic's reenactment to a blank fire cannon.
Oh, is that how that happened?
Yeah. He actually
What an awesome way to lose an arm. If you're going to lose an arm, take it off with a cannon.
But he taught himself to resculpt with a prosthetic, and his sculpting is actually better than it ever was. So hell of a respect for the man for, just the craft of being able to continue sculpting after that.
Well, that's interesting. I thought he switched over to using his left.
He did, but he taught himself to sculpt, but the prosthetic still has to hold, the piece in place. He's hardly sculpting a cheekbone with the prosthetic.
I can't even imagine how difficult that is. Like, my right hand does everything for me. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to teach my left to do everything that my right does. Day in, day out, I'm like this, using the mouse.
Yeah.
And then I've tried it in the past, switching over to left, and I'm like this, trying to do the same stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually ambidextrous. I can do it with either hand.
Shut up. Really?
No, whenever I was working on site, most fellas, they would work with the tools with either hand or the other.
Yes.
Me, I was switching back and forth the whole time. So whenever I was up on a rooftop, I'd be switching the hammer left to right, and my boss was just going, What sorcery is this? What black magic have you used to be fit to do that? Just can.
There you go. Ben, are you
ambidextrous?
Ambidextrous.
No, only my right hand. I can only use my right, so.
Right, come on, let's move on.
Yeah.
If you want to win that, win one of those, 2 DVDs, 2 Blu-rays, 1 special edition.
Yep, so 5 prizes in total. We will have 5 winners.
Comment on the show here below on Beasts of War, comment on the Facebook post about it, and comment on the YouTube channel for your chance to be in the running for that. Yep. Now, speaking of competitions, we've got some big prizes to give away from Team Yankee.
You're wearing the t-shirt.
I am wearing the t-shirt, but I'm still going to give you the job.
Yeah. Basically, we had our Team Yankee Leopard week running a little while back, and we had 2 amazing prizes, which were 2 starter bundles, including the Russian starter set, the German starter set, the Team Yankee Core Rulebook, and the all-important Leopard book. And we have chosen our winners for them. So, our winners are Tim Pashier from Facebook. Our second winner, Guillotine from Beasts of War.
Oh,
Jammy
yeah.
dances all around. So, guys, get your prize claims in, and we will see about getting this sent out to you as soon as possible.
Yep, there's a wee contact form up on Beasts of War, just up in the left-hand corner. Press contact.
Right-hand corner.
Nope, left hand.
Really?
Right hand. Yes, right-hand corner. He's right.
You're right or left. That
Yes.
corner.
Up there somewhere. Click it. The drop down will come out, and
Yeah.
there'll be like a claim prize form.
Yeah.
Right, let's get stuck into this week's show with the news, please, Ben. What's first?
Yeah, sure. So the first piece of news comes out of Fantasy Flight Games, and Star Wars Armada is, as you know, sort of exploding all over the place, and they're adding a new campaign pack to this, or of a new campaign system, which is called the Corellian Conflict.
Yes.
So this will be a really cool sort of addition to the game, where you're taking on the role of opposing forces. So you've got the Rebels and the Imperium, and they'll be fighting over this huge sector in the Star Wars universe and stuff like that. Very, very cool.
See, I find this kind of exciting. I love the look of the map.
Yeah.
I like the idea of being able to sit down and tie my games in, because Star Wars Armada just has that. It has that I am the big honcho in charge of my entire fleet sort of feel about it.
It's what we've talked about.
Whereas X-Wings very much get the mission done, Armada does feel like, let's control the sector, let's win control of the galaxy, let's beat back the rebels.
It's that thing we've talked about more than once. It's the levels of wargaming. Whenever you're down playing X-Wing, you're down at that squad level. It's very focused, very personalized. You move up to Armada, and suddenly you are the top end, the fleet commander. You're seeing the battlefield from that top level, where you're controlling everything. And I think that's sort of the feeling you're getting from this. Yeah, Lloyd?
Yep. I mean, look at the map. The map looks cool. I like the idea of having all the. Are those planets or star systems that are on the map?
Looks to be planets from here.
Yeah,
So it's
they're planets, yeah.
It's controlling. Oh, but there could be planets in different systems and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that? Is it two players like I play and Justin plays the campaign, or is there more than one person or two people? Is there like groups of people involved in this?
You can play it with a full group of maybe 4 or 5 different people. So yeah, you can all sort of take sides and fight over the system for both the Imperials and the Rebels. Yeah, so it's not just going to be a 2-player thing. So yeah, it'll involve a whole bunch of people. So great for clubs and stuff like that as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, awesome stuff, and I love all the look of all the materials and stuff that come with it.
Yeah, but I like the fact that it's a bolt-on, so that if you already have, Star Wars Armada, you're not buying this and getting essentially the starter set again.
Yeah.
It is a standalone product, which I quite like the idea of.
Yeah.
Star Wars Armada is a game that I have woefully underlooked at.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I'm still pretty much in my X-Wing sort of thing.
Yeah.
I haven't really jumped into it as much as I should have. But the likes of the campaign and stuff does sound kind of exciting.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that gives you more of a narrative drive to actually be playing these games, because it's all well and good just having a little bit of a bashy bust up once in a while, but what you really want is just a nice overarching story where you feel like something's happening, you feel like you're having an effect on the greater galactic landscape, if you know what I mean.
Yep, absolutely. Ben, let's move on. Next up we have...
Yeah, sure. We've got some stuff from Privateer Press. Now, obviously, they're going to be at Gen Con this year, which is fantastic. So that's next weekend and sort of the week there. So they're going to be bringing along some really cool stuff character-wise that is pushing on the narrative a little bit. So one of the first things we're going to look at is that Cygnar are getting themselves a new captain in Allison Jakes, who people might remember from the Warmachine Tactics game. So, yeah.
Now, she already exists within the Warmachine universe as a journeyman warcaster. So, sort of that apprentice who is now out of the colleges and beginning to be mentored on the actual live battlefields.
Is this the first time then she's appeared as a miniature?
No, she has already been a miniature, is what I'm saying.
Right.
This is her story progressing and her moving up to that next level, because what we've seen in the past is you would have started with a regular warcaster, and then they got an epic variant where the story has now moved along and they are now bigger, badder, and better. So I like to see that this is what's actually happening with at least one of the journeymen that we got whenever these all came out, because there was one that came out for each faction, so I'm hoping that we're going to see the same thing happen for all of the characters that were made for the journeymans.
Okay, and also on the page here I can see that we have concept art or something.
Yes. Now, one of the big changes that we're seeing here is that Allison, whenever she first started out, she had one sword, a dagger, and one pistol, if I remember correctly. Or did she? I'm not quite sure, but it looks as if she's upgraded her weapons a little bit more now.
Yeah.
So she does look a little bit meaner. I'm expecting her spellcasting to be, broadened out, because when she was a journeyman, she only had a few spells to her name. So now that she's going to full Warcaster mode, I expect to see a lot more. And I expect to just see, a themed list around her as well, because that's normally what they do with their Warcasters.
Yeah, absolutely. The back looks really interesting in these pictures.
Yeah.
Do we have a picture of the back of the actual mini?
Unfortunately, no, but we do have a final piece of artwork showing her. And she does look really, really badass.
Wow, the artwork's
Warcaster
amazing.
Yeah. It's something Privateer do really well. Once they actually draw something up and actually do that nice high-end piece of artwork, you're just left there going, oh my god, it's beautiful, I want it.
I didn't realize that the other characters had these like smokestack things going on.
Yeah, that's the Arcane Turbine, which is basically the main power core for all Warcaster armor. So basically it's a miniaturized boiler essentially that is fueled by magical energy, which powers up their power field, which is sort of a magical energy.
I knew obviously the Warjacks and stuff had that.
Yeah, well obviously a Warjack's a machine, but because you have this sort of mechanical armor, it's infused both with magic and mechanical components. So it's a blending of magic and machine, which actually lets everything run in this world, which is why I like the technology designs we see in it.
Cool. I've got so much to learn. We played the Undercity about a week or so ago now.
Yeah.
And I came away from that. We talked about it in the Weekender and stuff. Probably the backstage episode. But I came away from it thinking, do you know what? I kind of enjoyed that a lot.
Mm-hmm. You want to step
now
into
I know. I'd have to start sort of getting to know the universe, the Iron Kingdoms themselves. So if we're going exploring again, I have more of a grounding on what we're actually doing.
Yeah. Well, I will say this: if you do plan to actually jump in with both feet and actually maybe grab a Warmachine starter set, I've already taken Cygnar. I have also already taken the Kedor as well, because
would it just be easier to list who you haven't taken, Justin?
No, because I've only got the two factions so far.
And they're both sitting here.
Yeah. But, my Kedor is sitting off camera. I'll be showing them off tomorrow because I have been working away and painting them up. But the other thing that came out of this is we're seeing a resculpt for one of the greatest miniatures from the range. Say hello to Behemoth Mark II. This is one of the greatest kits Privateer have ever made. The original metal one was an absolute monster. I saw some guys, whenever they were building this, they would actually drill up the entire way through the legs to actually just pin the entire thing the entire way up through the body just to keep it solid, because this thing was so big, so heavy. But it's an absolute monster on the tabletop.
Have we had this in the studio?
We possibly have had the older version of this.
Yeah, not studio. This, but I seem to recall a big, massive metal.
No. That was the Extreme Juggernaut or Destroyer, I believe we have, which is essentially a 2-up of one of the normal minis. So they're absolutely huge. Privateer do those as sort of a collector's piece, which you can still play on the tabletop.
This was ages and ages ago.
Yep. It's sitting about here somewhere. If I could find it, I would have it home with me.
So what scale is this then? Is this twice a Warjack size?
It's maybe half as much again for a Warjack. Because all right, here's one of my Cygnar, right?
Yes.
So if I put him in under close camera here, so if we get a little closer, he's about this tall, right?
Yeah.
Behemoth's probably about this tall.
Yeah.
So it is quite the monstrous beastie.
Right.
But it doesn't matter how big.
Because in the image, it looks ginormous.
Yeah, that's the thing though. For Warmachine and Hordes, it doesn't matter because the entire system works off base volume.
Yeah.
So a base size will give your miniature a volume size. So it doesn't matter how big or how epic you go with scenic bases and stuff. It's always got the same sort of profile to it. If that makes sense to you.
Okay.
So honestly, they could make the Juggernaut or the Behemoth as big and as badass as they want, and I honestly love the way this looks now.
You're excited.
I'm very excited.
Ben,
I'm going to have at least one of these.
Are you as excited as Justin about this stuff?
Yeah, I'm really liking the look of the Behemoth, and as Justin was saying, it's nice to see them pushing on the narrative with some of their characters and stuff like that. So, and there's more to look at as well, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the next bit we have here, Ben?
Yeah, sure. So the next one is actually for the Legion of Everblight, and this is they're upgrading Fyanna, who used to be a solo, and they're turning her into a warlock, which is very, very interesting indeed. So yeah, we didn't get an official look at this, but this was sort of like a little sneaky peek that some people snapped up from conventions and things like that. So we're seeing some of the concept art and the final artwork for here as well. Yeah, and obviously you can see the old model as well here too.
Yeah, the original miniature and then the final artwork.
Yes, yeah.
Now, it's very interesting to me to see that they've actually taken a solo and turned it into a warlock, because in the world of Hordes you don't exactly have that sort of journeyman warlock sort of step, so you're sort of missing that. So it's nice to see that the Horde side of things isn't being left out, and they're looking at the solos going, yeah, you could level up and become a warlock.
You're losing me already, right?
All right.
A Warcaster, I've got the grasp of what they are.
Yeah. So
Warjacks and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
A solo is...
Right, basically in Warmachine it breaks down into, you have your Warcaster, leader of your army, you have your Warjacks, that's your main battle group. You then come down to units, and then you then come down to battle engines, and then you come to your solos. So your solos are sort of heroic characters that aren't as amazing as, say, a Warcaster or something, but they can do some very, very cool stuff within your army. So they're sort of that flavor piece. Yeah, they're hero-esque, you know. But it's nice to see that Hordes is getting that sort of a step up as well, that they're going, right, I'm looking at this solo, and yes, I can imagine your story will evolve, and you will become a warlock, you know. That's the key thing with Warmachine. The world is always driving forward, you know. So there's no stagnation in it. It's always driving forward to something new, which I love.
Always going forward. They cannot find reverse.
Oh,
What?
oh no.
Ben, what else is new?
Yeah, so following in the same vein as something that we're sort of showing off today here on the Weekender, actually, it was some work by Doug Hamilton, also for Privateer Press, and this is still within the vein of Warmachine and Hordes and things like that, and this is just looking at Captain Aiakos, who's going to become a new Warcaster for Cryx. So this is somewhere along the same lines as what we're seeing with Fyanna, in which this guy was originally just a solo, but he's being upgraded to Warcaster status. So yes, he's changed from the Scourge of Meridas to a whole new version of himself with some new weapons, some new armor, and all sorts of lovely things as well. Yeah.
Now I do find this quite interesting that it's actually a solo from Cryx, and it's not that journeyman Warcaster that is leveled up.
Yes.
Because that was kind of the vein I was going to expect them to take with Warmachine, that it would always be, you know, you'll become a journeyman and then you'll go to Warcaster. But I mean, like, I guess I can kind of understand what has happened here with Cryx, because they don't really have a set government. They're very much outside the normal social conventions and stuff. So seeing this guy suddenly jump up and go, by the way, I'm that badass, I'm now a warlock or a warcaster, deal with it. I quite like the idea of.
Well, this guy used to be, I think it was like a Reaver and a pirate and things like that. So he certainly stepped up his game and sort of maybe got himself involved with some mysterious stuff on the Cryxian magic side of things. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I will be interested to see what the story is for this guy, because I can just imagine, you know, one of the Cryx Warcasters actually, you know, kidnapping him, taking him down into a little underground lab, doing some experiments, and whoops, I made him stronger.
Yeah. You just kind of whiz through that, and I'm trying to figure out what's new and what's not. The renders are new?
Everything is new.
Everything
there is new.
Except for the miniature images that we were seeing.
What was the last one we were just looking at, briefly?
So that was Aiakos in his original form. So this was him while he was a solo.
Right. So this isn't new.
No.
So he's gone from looking like this to
ta-da.
One at the top,
yeah. And in all honesty, I have to say this is some of Doug's best work. You know, looks absolutely fantastic. You've got tons of detail that you can be working on. This is going to be an absolute treat to paint. So well done, Doug. That looks fantastic.
Cool. And that's not yet on the website. That's next week, Ben. We're putting that up.
That'll come up on Monday, yeah. So you can have a better look at it on Monday, yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Okay, now something very exciting.
Do we need to put on the wibbly music?
Boom, 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 boom. Ooh!
Oh, dear.
That's enough of that.
No. That just was horrible, Lloyd. It didn't work.
Warlord's Doctor Who miniatures game pre-orders, Ben.
Ta-da!
Yeah, so this is another look ahead. You can find out some more stuff on Monday and stuff like that. But yes, they have put up the new pre-orders for their Doctor Who miniatures game on their web store now. So you can go over and check out the box set for the 10th Doctor, who was David Tennant, and all of his companions there. So you've got Martha, Rose, Donna, and Wilfred. And also, they've put up the 12th Doctor as well. So that's Peter Capaldi's lot. So this is Clara, that a lot of people might know from the modern series, as well as Madame Vastra, who's the alien character, Jenny, her servant and partner, and Strax as well, who's very, very cool. Yeah.
But no images yet at the time of filming. If they come up in between times, oh well. But I think it's really cool. So they're doing a box set for every Doctor.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not just the Doctor, but the ensemble of characters who helped him on his crazy quests and things.
Yeah.
Well,
so the whole idea behind this is that they've got access to everything that the BBC ever did to do with Doctor Who. And so they're going to bring out a box set, potentially, for every single Doctor and all of their companions. So you'll be able to pick up all sorts of different characters from both the new and the old series. Yeah.
Quick, important question. Will there be a Doctor of done as John Hurt from the War Doctor?
I'd hope so, because he is a very cool version of the Doctor. So yes, it would be nice to see him, I think. Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk about our favourite Doctors?
Well, John Hurt has to be my favourite. He was only ever in it once for the Day of the Doctor. but it was seeing the character just being so emotionally torn, having to decide whether or not to blow up everything and end the Time War.
The Day of the Doctor.
Yeah.
Was this a transitional episode?
Sort of. It was just before Capaldi came in, so it was sort of the big reveal for him. So it was done as like a feature-length thing, and you had 3 Doctors coming together, you know.
This explains why I've never seen it, because I stopped watching it sort of after David Tennant.
Ah,
right. Yeah.
Because in the new in the new stuff, David Tennant's my favorite.
Yeah.
But if I had to go retro Doctor, I would have to go back till
Sylvester McCoy, isn't it? Yeah.
How did you know that? Have I talked about this on the show before?
No, you haven't talked about it on the show before. But I'm sure we've had this geek argument whenever we've been driving around at the car at some point.
Sylvester McCoy, he was just like, I just loved his attitude and the way he got on, and just, I don't know, he was just really nerdy and geeky, and I just really warmed to him.
Okay.
And he fought the Bertie Bassett monster. We have talked about this on the show before.
Bertie Bassett monster.
He fights a monster that looks like Bertie Bassett.
Okay. For our American cousins who don't know who Bertie Bassett is.
Bertie Bassett is like a sweet character. He's made up of licorice sweets and stuff like this.
Okay, fine. Okay, now I know what you're on about.
But he fights a monster he's like a sweetie monster.
Really?
And when I was a kid, the sweetie monster, I was like, hey, he's pretty scary. You know, forget the Daleks, forget the Cybermen. The sweetie monster, he was scary.
I don't know. If I had to pick one from the actual series and not a crossover one, I'm afraid it would have to be David Tennant. He simply played the Doctor the best for me.
Right. And what about your retro Doctor?
I don't have one.
Oh.
I'm sorry, but whenever I was growing up in Northern Ireland, I grew up in the countryside. We only got, 3 channels whenever I was growing up?
Oh.
3 channels of TV. And I think the BBC was always fuzzy.
90s baby trapped in an 80s baby body.
I was born in the late 80s. That doesn't count.
There it is again, proven. No retro Doctor?
No retro Doctor.
Ben, who was your retro Doctor? Do we know yet?
Well, from the modern series, I like David Tennant. He's my best. But I really liked Tom Baker because I thought he was just a bit off the wall and crazy. And, you know, you got to love scarves and jelly babies and all sorts of things. So, yeah. Very cool. Yeah. But in keeping with sort of going back to the tabletop and things like that, one of the big things they were actually talking about in the stuff they could tell us is that they will be doing plastic and metal sets for all of the enemies and things like that.
Nice.
So you're going to have Daleks, Cybermen, the unit troopers and things from the later series and things like that as well. So
we're going to have Bertie Bassett.
A lot down the road. Yeah.
Bertie Bassett monster.
Maybe a Bertie Bassett monster.
Maybe the Bertie Bassett monster.
They have access to everything, so I'd imagine they will be bringing something like that out at some point.
Oh, they're going to have a Christopher Eccleston, because I actually enjoyed him as well as the Doctor.
Which one was he?
He was like the first Doctor when they revamped it.
Yeah, so he would have been
the first of the
leather
modern
jacket guy. Okay, gotcha.
Not the guy who was in the movie. There was like a Doctor Who movie thing that came out to try and revamp it, and then that fell apart. And then they did it again with Christopher Eccleston as a TV show.
Yeah.
I can't even remember who was in the movie. The movie wasn't that good.
The TV series, that was never first. You had Rose Tyler first introduced, yeah?
Yeah, so Billy Piper's character.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I like Doctor Who. I don't watch it religiously or anything, so I'm not up to speed in every character. But the stuff like I really like the retro ones where the Daleks are attacking London and stuff, Ben, and they're capturing everybody and they're putting them on the spaceships to take them away.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Doctor Who's one of those shows that has...
Doctor it was that was in my favourite episode, which was actually World War II London, where you had a scientist who had created these iron soldiers, but it turned out it was just the Daleks again.
Was it a movie?
No, it was in the TV series, in the recent TV series.
Right.
I'm not sure which Doctor it was, though. I can't remember. I think it may have been David Tennant, but I'm not 100% certain.
So the one I'm talking about, I don't know. I think I have a feeling it might have been. What was his name? Pertwee.
Sean Pertwee. No, John Pertwee. That's
John Pertwee. Wasn't he a doctor as well?
I think he was. Yeah, he was the one in the cricket whites. I think so. Yeah.
Because
but I think the episode you're talking about there, Justin, is the one where we were first introduced to possibly Captain Jack. I think it was. So
possibly
interesting if they do some sort of Torchwood stuff as well. That'd be cool.
That would be cool because I will admit I do prefer Torchwood.
How could you prefer Torchwood to Doctor
Who?
Who?
I enjoy the storylines better. That and those low melodious Welsh accents are just glorious when you're painting. You can just totally zone out hearing the Welsh accent. Fantastic.
One of the things I'm really interested with this actually is that obviously Doctor Who's something that's going to be it's a very episodic game, and it's very scenario based and things like that. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how they actually get this across in the miniature game form, because I know they're going to be calling this Into the Time Vortex. So that means that they can bring in all sorts of things from all different eras and stuff like that. But it'll be interesting to see whether or not there's a sort of element of one player versus one, or do you all play as the Doctor and their companions against the game itself, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with this one. I think it'll be really fun. Yeah.
Let's see the miniatures that we can see from Warlord here.
Yeah.
Just have another brief look at them. And I want you guys to comment below
There you go.
on which Doctor you like, which is your favourite, and more importantly to me,
Right.
is which bad guys do you like? Do you like the Daleks? Do you like the Cybermen? Do you like those weird new ones with the dangly stuff?
Oh,
What
the
were
Ood.
The Ood.
Ooh.
Let's have a look at the minis, because the minis are looking good.
They
Yeah,
are
these
looking
are
really
really
good. I
good.
mean, one of the big things that Warlord have said is that they've been working very, very closely with the BBC to make sure that everything is signed off on properly and things like that. So they're really going to town with this. They've got some really good detail in there and stuff as well. All the characters look very nice, and they look like their on-screen counterparts, which is very, very important as well. So
And I'm guessing that working with the BBC is why we're not seeing images just flying out the door, because every image is going, every image is being approved and stuff with the BBC.
exactly, that's the whole thing behind it at the moment. Yeah, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll start to see some more stuff drop out for the different boxes and things like that. But as I've said, they're going to be working on all the different Doctors and all the different enemies and stuff like that. So there's a lot to look forward to. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Recently, on I can't remember what episode it was or which series it was, but there was a particular bad guy, and I thought that's pretty weak.
Right.
It was like a face stretched on a bit of skin. And that's basically all it was. It was a big flappy face
Is that not
on
Cassandra?
I don't know. I couldn't remember the enemies to save my life. But
Being the last pure-blooded human.
skin. I have no idea. But she
Was
was.
it on a space station with the sun exploding?
Yes, I think it was.
Right, that's Cassandra, I believe.
Well, what the heck was going on with Cassandra? That'd be the most two-dimensional character ever.
Oh.
Ka-ching!
No, the whole concept with Cassandra was she was this plastic surgery addict who just went so far that all that was left was a brain in a box and a sheet of skin with a face on it.
yes, I do remember it now. Yeah, it was voiced by Zoe Wanamaker, I think it was.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I think that was actually the original Doctor of the new series.
I don't
might have
remember.
been.
And I remember they had an episode where these gargoyles would come into life.
Not gargoyles, the angels.
The Weeping Angels,
Were they not,
they're
were there not
terrifying.
gargoyles or something coming to life on top of a church?
There might have been
Possibly.
as well.
Way back?
The one I'm thinking of is the Weeping Angels, where they can only move if you're not looking at them, and they move incredibly fast when you're not looking at them. Do you remember
That was-
these? You know, they're always
one
sat
of-
like this.
Yeah, it was one of the scariest episodes of Doctor Who I think it was from the David Tennant stuff, when it was him and
How
Martha,
could it be
I think.
scary though? Like, 'cause if I don't want you to move, I'll just stare at you.
Yeah,
But
don't blink.
you can't even blink.
Oh, because if
I'm
you blink,
closer.
they move really fast.
I'm closer.
Yeah.
All right. I'm closer again. I'm
Yeah.
closer again.
So it's like
I'm
Monty.
dead.
So it's like Monty Python,
Something like that, yeah.
where the guy's charging really far in the distance.
Exactly. They move
And they're playing all the drums.
incredibly quickly.
And then they cut back to him, he's got a bit closer. And then they cut back to him, he's got a bit closer. And then they cut to the guards, they're like this. And then they cut to him again. And then they cut back and he goes, "Ugh!"
Yeah, only worse.
And stabs one of them.
Only worse, because they're
One of my favorite
they're the ones who got Amy.
One of my favorite scenes in Monty Python.
No, they actually got my favorite companion, which was Amy.
Are we talking about two completely different things here? I'm trying to talk about Monty Python.
And I'm talking about Doctor Who. Stay on topic.
They're
Stay on
both
point.
British
mate.
institutions, so it's okay.
We almost
so.
went into Star Wars there with Stay on Target.
No, honestly, I'm excited to see what happens with this, because it's an incredible IP that they've landed. They're going to have to keep things really tight, working alongside the BBC, because the BBC are really going to protect that IP.
Yeah.
But that's going to mean we're going to get a fantastic game at the end of it, so I'm really excited to see what we get with it.
Speaking of Monty Python, has anybody ever actually done miniatures and stuff for them?
There are some miniatures out there that are skirting the borders in terms of this is definitely not Monty Python, but it is. But you can get them out there. They've done some of the different nights and things like that. So, yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay, moving
Why,
on.
do you want to play the Holy Grail on the tabletop?
I kind of do.
The praise of Robin Hood ran away.
I need my wee coconuts. I kind of do, actually, because I like the whole look of the whole, Crusades armies and stuff.
Yeah,
But it's kind of serious, so if I throw like a Monty Python-esque knight in there, who's just
Knights of
yeah,
Knee.
Trump.
yeah, the historical guys, you'll leave them on the floor twitching, having conniptions.
No, Lloyd, stop ruining everything.
Why is he working with coconuts? Why is he rolling his dice from a coconut?
Why is he farting in our general direction?
No, that's just you on a bad day after a curry night.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on. Gen Con board game picks, Ben. There was a post come out and it said there's 350 board games to show off at Gen Con. I mean, 350!
Yeah, so
Where the heck do you even start?
It's Gen Con, and I know you shake your fist generally at Gen Con going, damn you, Gen Con, why do you have to be so far away? I almost sounded like a Dalek there.
And this is why. Because there's 350 board games.
Actually, very good Dalek voice. But
yes.
Anyway,
So,
Ben, what's going on?
Yeah, so Board Game Geek have put together a list of the 350 games that are going to be at Gen Con. Now, obviously, Dawn and Gianna couldn't write all of these into a post because that would just last forever, but they picked out some of their favourites that were sort of mentioned and things like that. So they picked out a few and sort of showed off their covers and things. So one of the big things is, obviously, we talked about Walking Dead last week. That's going to be there to be shown off and stuff like that. One of the interesting things is that they're actually going to be releasing a Sharknado board game.
Shut the door. Sharknado the board game.
Yeah,
Stop.
no real understanding of exactly how that's going to work.
Stop.
But,
Hold the phone. Okay, we had Sharknado, the first one, and that was bad enough.
yeah.
They then made a sequel, and that was worse. They then made the sequel to the sequel, in which you had sharks in space.
Have
and that
you
was
watched
worse
them
again.
all?
I got like 2 minutes into each before going, no, click, not having that.
What do you think, Ben? Is Sharknado the board game going to actually make a decent board game, or is it just going to be silliness?
I think it will be the right kind of silliness. I think, strangely enough, this will probably sell quite well on Kickstarter because people will really get into it. It'll have that sort of weird camp factor to it as well. So people will pick this up and get stuck into it. I think I think it'll be weirdly good.
No, it's not for me. It's not for me. I don't need more Sharknado in my life. Whoever created Sharknado, I hate you for creating Sharknado.
But yes, as well as that, Gale Force 9 are going to be there. Obviously, they're going to be showing off Star Trek Ascendancy, which we talked about last week, and Pirates of the Underdark as well, which is their D&D crossover and things like that. In terms of some other interesting properties and sort of intellectual properties that everybody knows and things, Bill and Ted are going to be arriving from Steve Jackson Games with their excellent board game and stuff. So that'll be really cool.
No, do it again, Ben. or start going like this. Oh, you can't see my hand.
I can't see a hand.
Oh,
Don't break the laptop!
Excellent!
This is why we can't have nice things.
God, that was gnarly. I can't even think
My
of it.
inner nerd hurts.
Bill and Ted should be full of loads of lines I can remember, but I can't think of any of them right now. Do you think you'll get to play Death?
I would hope so. I mean, from the looks of it, they're going to be doing the one with all the historical figures and things like that. So that should be really interesting. It's going to be a Steve Jackson game, and I'm going to sort of throw my hat into the ring and say that Steve Jackson sort of haven't really made a great game recently since Munchkin. But it'll be interesting to see what this one does. So yeah, but
Well, he's got plenty. He's got plenty to work with. He's got Napoleon. He's got Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Is Station in the first one?
Oh no, it's the second one, sorry.
Yeah. Who else in the first one? Napoleon,
You've
Genghis
got
Khan.
Abraham Lincoln, you've got Socrates.
Death isn't in the first one. That's
No,
the
he's
second
in the
one.
second one too, yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
But I mean, if they're going to be calling it sort of Bill and Ted and sort of stuff like that, I imagine they're going to bring things in from both of them. So
Yeah, they'll have the bogus board game expansion.
yes.
What? That works.
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what else do we have?
If you want to go down sort of like that weird route as well, they're going to be doing, Upper Deck are going to be doing another couple of legendary games and things like that. So we're going to have legendary Big Trouble in Little China, which sounds very, very cool. And also,
Do you know what?
personally-
Wait.
I'm in my happy place.
Wait. Big Trouble in Little China will be awesome because you can roll your dice, and every time you get a good roll, all you need to say is, it's all in the reflexes.
No, I'll roll my dice and do the other one. Roll the dice. I feel like Dirty Harry.
I don't remember that line in the movie.
Really? Whenever the little fella pulls out the massive magnum?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking of Tom Burton. What's his name? It's not Tim Burton.
Oh,
Tim Burton's the director.
Yeah. What's his... John... Oh.
it's the same guy that plays Snake Plissken.
No, I'm thinking of his name in the film, though. It's gone completely. Jack Burton.
Jack Burton, yeah.
There it is.
There you go.
Got it.
Tim Burton.
and then you can go. Jack Burton always says, get stuck in there, or Jack Burton always says something else.
Yeah.
I have to watch this movie so I can write down all the crappy lines.
Well, I do want to get a movie night on at some point. I think this could be a great laugh. You know, it's one of those classic B movies that you have to sit down and watch at least once a decade.
Yeah, but as I was saying, obviously they're doing Big Trouble in Little China, but the one that I'm really looking forward to is they're going to be doing Legendary Encounters for Firefly as well. So hopefully they're going to pick out some of the really cool episodes from that, and we'll have Mal and Zoe and all the crew and stuff from Firefly sitting down to go through some adventures one last time. So that'll be very, very awesome. Anything Firefly is good in my book.
Well, I'm sorry to say, I'm still mildly traumatized from Serenity. Just that.
What the heck was wrong with Serenity?
I am a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar.
I liked Serenity. I thought that was really good.
No, I'm still broken up over Wash dying. No. That hurt. It was too soon. He had so much to give.
I don't think it hurt that much.
It hurt everybody.
It looked like it hurt, but I don't think it hurt that much.
Oh, no. Whenever Wash died, it was just, no, why Wash?
Well, it didn't make any difference. It's not like they made any more of it.
No, I know that, but it's still, why did they kill Wash? Kill Jean. I don't like Jean. Kill Jean.
Jane,
fine, whatever.
Yeah, I was sitting thinking, who the heck's Jean?
I always mishear it and I always mispronounce it. Shut up.
But yes, finally, one of the other board games that was picked out is going to be one from USAopoly and Fireside Games, and this is Star Trek Panic. So we've got a whole bunch of Star Trek stuff coming out over the summer, and this is going to be one of the big games. So yeah,
funny that should pop up because Dawn and Gianna over in the States are going to be playing this on Monday.
Yeah.
Because we're doing a lot more Let's Plays, so they wanted to get involved as well. We've got them as the Dames of Games.
Oh, cool.
Let's play Star Trek Panic.
All right.
So we have Dawn playing with a couple of her friends. Gianna's not in the episode because she's doing producer.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it plays and stuff. I've watched a little bit of it, and it's Panic, basically.
It's good fun.
It's
a really
Panic.
good video.
So is it sort of a high-pressure game, I'm kind of guessing, then?
Well, yes, because there's the board. I don't want to give away too much, but there's the board.
Aye.
Right, and you have your Enterprise in the middle.
Okay.
And all these Klingon birds of prey keep decloaking, and they're the things that approach you. And then when they get too close, they shoot at your shields. And then eventually you lose your shields, and then you have to put fire tokens on your Enterprise, and then the Enterprise is on fire everywhere.
So, like every good Star Trek movie, they're going to blow up the Enterprise. Excellent. Sold.
Well, not if you survive the game.
Enterprise must blow up.
Then you're losing the game every time you play it, Justin.
I can live with that because the Enterprise blew up. That is how Star Trek should work.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Because then you can shout, "She can't take any more, Captain!
I'm giving her all she's got, sir!"
I'm a gamer, not a bricklayer. That doesn't really work.
No. It's... Damn it, Jim. I'm a surgeon, not a board gamer.
Beam me up, Scotty. I've had enough.
Aye.
Yeah, but if you're interested in that, tune in on Monday here on Beasts of War and check that out because it'll be interesting to see it get played.
Yeah, cool.
Right. Is that it? Is that the board games wrapped up, or is there even more?
No, that's all of it for now, but I'm sure we'll have some more stuff as Gen Con approaches next week. So.
Awesome. I'm a way to dig out my... Forget the show. I'm a way to watch Big Trouble in Little China. Lo Pan. Take out Lo Pan. I'm going to scrunch up my eye and throw my fireballs at him. No, actually, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back to talk about some other cool stuff.
Humanity has been driven from Earth, but now it's time to take it back. Join the Reconquest and fight the Scourge on the Drop Zone Commander Hub at beastsofwar.com. It's time for 28mm World War II action. Will you recreate history or reshape it your way? On the Bolt Action Hub at beastsofwar.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Boy, do I have something that's going to sicken you, Ben. Ben loves dwarfs. He absolutely loves them.
So do I.
You'll be so sickened. Because guess what we have in the studio here, Ben?
I have a feeling you have some really, really nice dwarven terrain.
Karagheim.
We do indeed. We have those awesome dwarf buildings that have come in from 4Ground.
Love the look of these things. Absolutely love the look of them. If I spin these around a little bit, you can see they've went into some insane detail on them.
We'll do that in a sec. We've got 3 different types here.
Yeah, we've got 3 types. You've got your L shape,
yeah,
your long straight, and your shorter straight.
Okay.
So basically, this is the chief's house. And again, it's got full internal detail, so walls, doors, and even some artwork along the walls, just to make it a little bit fancy.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll move them out of the way.
All right.
And you can start showing them off on or even closer shot.
here we go here. So if I lift the top off,
Yeah.
you look inside, you've got all this beautiful artwork along one of the walls. All of the doors actually work, which is a really nice little touch that I always think is fun for 4Ground. And whenever you actually put your dwarves inside, the doors and stuff are just the right height for them. So if I put him through the door...
Does this one open?
Yeah, that one opens.
Do that, because we'll see him there.
All right, but if you look, the doors are just the right height for dwarves. So all the long ones that try and come into our houses are going to be banging their heads off the top of the doors.
What's this? Is this a Mantic Dwarf we're using?
This is a Mantic Dwarf.
For Kings of War, then?
Yes, so I would be quite happy to use this terrain in Kings of War as some nice big blocking line of sight terrain.
Well, let's give it a tilt right up so we can get a look at the floors and stuff. That's really cool, all these patterns and stuff.
Yeah,
it looks very dwarven runic.
Yeah, and if you look at the end here, they've actually worked in a full chimney to it. So it's a full fireplace in there.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. And then when you put the lid on...
Yeah, your fireplace is all matched up because you've got another one over here.
Yeah, so there's your chimney stack, there's your other chimney stack, and there's your fireplaces.
Yeah, really nice. So you've got the main living space and a bit of a bedroom here, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, so
do you know
got a really nice house.
You know what I really like about this? Stick that back on.
Yeah.
Is the chunky shapes they've got. It has that very... Lord of the Ringsy looking to it.
Yeah, it's going down the route that a lot of people seem to really like about dwarves, which is that geometric style to things, where it's very harsh lines and things like that, which is really cool. Yeah.
Because if we look at the side of the building here, because that really shows it off.
Yeah.
See all this stuff here. I just love the shapes that they've got in here, and I like this as well because it's really cool for putting your minis on the roof.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, it's one of the nice things about the dwarven stuff. It's got that nice solid feel to it because you expect this all to be made, you know, as from stone, you know, hewn from the very bones of the mountain itself to actually make their homes from.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I like this stuff.
Right, let's move on. Let's have a look at the other types. So this is the second largest.
Yeah. So this is the large long one. So you've got one door into this one. It's a single room, so I would turn this possibly into a bit of a pub. But again, you've got the nice little stickers down the side to give you some cool artwork on both sides this time, and a fireplace right at the end. So if I could get some really nice furniture and stuff for this would be my little dwarven drinking hall right here. What?
I thought Ben was going to be the one getting excited about this.
No, hang on. I have a dwarf army.
Yeah.
I like dwarves too. He's not the only one that loves dwarves. I like dwarves too. Beautiful stuff there.
Let's have a look at this one.
All right, this is the little one. So this, I would say, is just our little cookhouse. So this is where all the food and stuff is going to be made for the clan. So again, nice big stuff along the back.
Jesus, he's got a backstory and everything for every building.
Yeah. Every building must have a purpose when it goes on the table.
Exactly,
And
yeah, it's very true.
Even more artwork along here. Again, with those lovely working doors. This looks like it would be a lot of fun to put together. Quite a few layers on the sides of the buildings to actually get that nice heavy feel that you get from dwarven stuff.
Yeah.
But I really like that. And it's, like I said, I really want to get some of this unbuilt to actually have a go at it myself.
It's sweet the way that even the windows and stuff have that sort of geometric look to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it is a dwarf style dwelling, you know. Like I would love to build this on a massive sort of mountain table to make it look cool.
Yeah, up on the peaks and stuff. And what's this here? We've got some other little bits and pieces.
Yeah, these are the little dwarven pillars that you get along with this as well. So they're just little extra incidental scatter terrain pieces that you can lay down. So I don't know, I would maybe use these as sort of a gravestone type thing. Yeah. You know, so this is where the ancestors are buried.
The way that I was looking at using these was actually, you know, sometimes you get like ward stones and stuff that you might find inside a dwarven keep or up on the mountain signs, and maybe these actually have like a magical purpose to them. Yeah. So you could actually use them as objectives in your game, that if the dwarves rally around them, they get a buff and stuff like that, which would be really cool. Yeah. And you could even actually paint some proper runic magic into them as well and sort of give it a bit of a glow to it as well. That'd be really fun, I think.
Possibly.
Well, and if you had enough of them, I'd do them as like stone circles, but they're not stone circles, they're rune circles and stuff.
Like, runic power circles.
Yeah, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Also, if you were doing a table with some roadways on it, these could be the dwarven waypoints or the way markers.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so you use them sort of as signposts. But I'll tell you what, there's another game I would use these for. I would actually use these in Warmachine. Yeah. Because there is a dwarven faction within Warmachine called the Rulik.
Is there?
Yes, so there are dwarves in Warmachine, and the scale, if I actually grab my Cygnar here, and I'll put them down beside some of these buildings. So if I grab our little cookhouse and put my stuff down here, the scale of these actually looks pretty damn good. And whenever you have a human standing beside the front door, it actually feels like it's a dwarf-sized dwelling. You know, also if you get your ironclad down there as well.
Because they're going to smack their head on the way in.
Exactly. So I mean, like, I would use this. I mean, I would maybe grab some watch parts to actually just add some cogs and stuff to steampunk it up a little bit. But just with a fine little tweak like that, you have a fantastic looking dwarven table or Rulik table for your games of Warmachine.
Do you know what I like though? They work really well with the Mantic Dwarves because the Mantic Dwarves have that very geometric look. I see you've got a unit over there. Bring that in so we see what an actual unit of Kings of War dwarves and stuff looks like with this stuff.
So here's how a unit looks whenever it's down. Now if you scan back, Lloyd, I'll spread this out so that the unit would actually be moving through the buildings.
Yeah.
So you could lay it out so that it's got that very geometric, precise layout and leave just enough room for like units and stuff to move in between. Because that's the thing with Kings of War, it's all about that footprint.
But if we're going close, it's the style of the dwarves and stuff because they've got flat fronts and sort of wedged backs to the heads and stuff.
Yeah.
All that geometric stuff. Because that was one of the things I liked about the Mantic Dwarves is I really liked the geometric look to them. And it works really well with this stuff here.
Yeah, well, I mean, like if you look at the High King, whenever you look at his shield and his crown, it really gives you that sense of there are those hardline shapes that you're working with. And that's making him fit into it because it feels like one connects to the other.
Yeah.
One of the actual things they showed off on the display board that they've been working on for this, when we talked about it in the past, is that they were using a lot of the Lord of the Rings dwarves and stuff, especially things from the Hobbit movies and things, because they actually engage a lot more of that geometric shapes that you've been talking about and stuff like that. So it would be good for a little sort of dwarven outpost on the side of the Lonely Mountain or something like that, or in the Blue Mountains and stuff. So it works for a whole range of different games, which is really cool.
Yeah. Nice. And you could paint it up gold if you wanted it to look sort of... Because in their places, a lot of the stuff was not a lot of it looking gold as well as stone.
It depends on what part of the world you're in, to be honest. Because if it's just a little mining village up at the top of a mountaintop, they're not really going to waste their time laying gold into their houses.
But you could paint the little details in gold and stuff.
You could do. Yeah, you could.
Because dwarves love the gold.
Oh yeah, they like the shiny. They love the shiny.
Yeah, you could easily take this down into a proper dwarven hold and sort of glam it up a little bit more with some gold and stuff. Yeah, it'd be really cool.
In fact, you've got a little story for each room. Where's your hoard? Where's your hoard house?
Oh, you mean my treasure house?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not telling you that.
No, but
I'm not telling you where my hoard is.
You need a hoard house.
No, I'm not telling you where my hoard is. I'm keeping it. It is mine. It is safe. You are not knowing where it is. You are not going to steal it from me.
Every dwarf has a hoard.
Yes. And they don't tell people where it is because they don't want people to steal it.
It's supposed to be kind of stupid to put it in the house, wouldn't it? You'd bury it.
Put it under the mattress.
Stop guessing where my hoard is.
Oh, dear. Let's move on because that's not the only cool set of buildings that have come in from 4Ground for us to have a look at.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Grim Stack buildings. Was it just last week? I think it was, Ben, wasn't it?
It was last week, and I think we've mentioned them the week before as well. But because they've been showing off a lot of their work in progress stuff on Facebook and things. Yeah.
Which is cool because now we have some in the studio. Take a look at these.
Are really, really cool looking. I love the design of these. They've got that really nice ramshackle look to them, as if they've just been sort of thrown and bolted together.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I would do is, you see all these metal plates on the top. I would throw some nice rust effects down on those.
You think?
I think they're just a little too shiny.
They're very shiny, aren't they?
Yeah. So I think they just need a little touch of weathering, as if they've been there a little while longer. But again, as with all of the stuff from 4Ground, the hatch on the top opens. So I can actually bring this down and show you. Your top hatch works, which is just a really nice little touch.
Let me get in closer on the top hatch because the wheel and stuff for opening it is really cool details.
Yeah, so you've got a little wheel on it that you can just hook and actually open. Yep. It's lovely little bits of engineering like that really add to 4Ground for me, because then you've also got the main house as well, and of course its front door opens. The only thing you're missing is a bit of furniture for the inside, but as we've discussed before, depending on what type of game you're playing, it determines whether or not you really want some furniture for it or not. Yeah,
I think the doors and the windows and stuff is what makes this.
Yeah,
I think that extra effort on saying, come on, let's design something really ornate looking for these buildings is what makes these stand out for me.
Yeah,
I know. It's like the Fabled Realms, Ben. It's got all the wonky edges and stuff. There was a game on the Xbox called Voodoo Vince, and it was based in like New Orleans, and he could do voodoo and stuff. And I just get that weird vibe off these buildings.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think really stands out for these, and it's something that you mentioned there, is that they look like before they were sort of effectively steampunked. they might have been quite grand houses or sort of like nice parts of the neighborhood, but they've sort of had bits bolted onto them and turned into this almost industrial level of building, which I think is really cool because it almost tells a story, and that's something that you really want with your terrain when you're building a board.
We have another one to look at.
So this is the smaller one, and if I turn it to the side, I've actually left the bottom loose on this one just because I think it's a little easier for storage. But you do have little guideposts on the bottom, so you see at the corners here.
Yeah.
They just let you sync everything up so that it all fits together and sits down again. But even just down to having little plates of metal and stuff that you can stick down on the inside to actually add those extra bolted-on bits of detail.
Well, all these little planks and stuff is really cool. It's got all the usual sort of foreground details, the way that they use the multi-layered stuff. So you've got we've got wooden boards underneath the the render and stuff on this one.
Yeah.
Usual cracks and stuff like that, but obviously all in a new style. Like the floor in here has that very.
Yeah, it's got a nice sort of concrete metal sort of sheet feel to it.
It's sheet metal because it's got all the little rivets and stuff.
Yeah, whereas this one, it's wood plank with a few metal bits actually tacked onto it, you know, around the walls and stuff.
Which is cool stuff. Do we have minis to show off?
Yeah. There should be some Volsung minis which should fit the scale of these perfectly.
Where do we see? I'll just grab these. Let's see. Justin, if you're going to give me that other building back, let's do a little bit of a street scene here.
Yeah. So,
give me my roof, please.
Oh, your roof. There you go.
Thank you.
Ta-da.
So this would be the sort of scale of miniatures that this is designed for, because they're thinking
32 mil, yeah.
They're thinking Malifaux and stuff, aren't they? Realistic.
Yeah. So some of the game systems they've talked about for this one are, as you say, Malifaux, Walsong, Wild West Exodus and things like that. So it's built with a whole bunch of different sort of steampunky systems in mind that have got that bit more of a characterful edge to their miniatures to sort of use the scale to intensify them and stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's get a close up.
Yeah. Whenever you're looking at this, it does just fit. The height of the models coming through the doors looks really good. And if I lift this off just for a second so you can see, if I tilt this up, you can see the height of a miniature is absolutely perfect.
Even with the umbrella, that's cool.
Even with the umbrella, yeah.
Let's see, does he fit with his top hat?
I'm not sure. Let's find out.
Let's find out.
And put him to the front door.
Yeah.
Of course, he's got all of his arms and stuff, but...
Let's tilt him way back. Yeah, he would just about fit. Yeah.
Just about.
It's perfect.
He maybe have to duck a little bit. He's very tall for a 32mm miniature.
Different scale to Volsung, but if you wanted, you could use or not different scale, different style to Volsung, but not that far off.
Well, you see, you could have sort of a Farland adventure for Volsung, where they've went into the southern swamps to the south of Lyonesse, you know, and just build your own sort of story around it, which wouldn't be too difficult to do.
But should work really well with Malifaux and things like that.
Yeah. Malifaux, again, even you could do some nice Warmachine with this if you really want it. Just recolor it so it's a little less bright, a little more plain, and actually design it so that, you know, all these extra bits that you've got on the roof.
Yeah.
If I was doing this for Warmachine, I would leave all these extra bits off to actually just make everything just look that little bit cleaner and a little less ramshackle, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And then just have all the plaster and stuff is still neat and tidy and clean, maybe a couple of little cracks through it. Just respray it down a little bit to keep it a nice flat color, and jobs are good. I'm
looking at this stuff, and I can't stop thinking about voodoo and vampires and things like this.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool for some sort of vampire game in a weird New Orleans.
One of the interesting things is actually, I was looking at this terrain and it's only just come to me, but there's a game called Dishonored that's on sort of Xbox and PlayStation 4 and stuff like that.
Yep.
And this has that same style to it with this sort of over-the-top sort of grand gothic nature to things, then with all the bolted steampunk on it as well. So you could actually create a really interesting board for that, and then maybe sort of look into the rules for Carnivale and stuff like that if you're going to try and sort of leap around on top of it. It'd be really cool. Yeah.
Now, Ben, there is another building that we're going to be showing off on the website. It's this yellow one that Justin's just brought up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they had to send a lot of stuff over to Gen Con, but they showed us one of the really cool yellow buildings as well for this range. So this is the third one that actually has some different layers to it, and it's got the really nice balcony around the outside as well. Mm-hmm. So it's really promoting that sort of sense of scale and levels in your wargaming as well. So yeah,
I like
Very
it.
cool.
I like it a lot.
I really like it.
It's got a haunted house sort of feel to it.
Yeah.
See, once they went up that extra level, I'm looking at it going, it looks like that creepy haunted house place in Disneyland.
yes,
I've not seen this.
They have a haunted house thing that you can go to in Disneyland.
Right.
I think everyone has the haunted house, and you walk in and you stand in this big room and they turn the lights off, and then the room drops into the floor and it's trying to freak you out. It doesn't freak adults out, but if people bring in their kids, they hate it. They're squealing and squealing, and I'm looking at you going, you numpties, what did you bring that little kid in here for? No, I can't enjoy the show for your kid squealing.
In Disneyland. In Disneyland.
I paid money. I want to hear what the narrator has to say in French. Not that I can understand any of it. Right, let's move on.
Okay.
We're almost going to take a break. Justin, I believe that you've had an interview with James, also known as Oriskany from the website.
Yeah.
He's
Barbarossa,
doing some
the
really
article.
cool stuff.
Yeah. Barbarossa, the article series that James has been working on, has now come to a close. But on top of that, he has also done a full set of battle reports in the actual forum. So I wanted to get a sit-down chat with him, myself, him, and John, to actually, chat a little bit about how the operation went, how he thinks the article series went, and actually have a little bit of theory craft on what we think should have happened during World War II, what tactics could have been changed to make things actually work a little better. So we'll take a quick break here, and we'll see you in a sec.
Anime cyberpunk style meets skirmish combat in Infinity. Experience 8 high-tech factions and fight to control the human sphere at the Infinity Hub on beastofwar.com. Flames of War brings you the battles of World War II in epic 15mm scale. Go to the hub on beastofwar.com to find news, tactics, and tutorials about the game.
Everybody, welcome. We are joined by the mighty Oriskany from the website. James, Barbarossa has finished, mate. What an article series it has been.
Yeah. Thanks
very much. I appreciate it.
So overall during the series, what exactly happened, just for everybody at home, just as a sort of a summary of what went on?
Okay, so in summary, like I said, a rather quick summary since this was all in the articles. We took a look at the first 5 months of the Axis invasion of the Soviet Union through a wargaming perspective, obviously, beginning on June 22nd, 1941. This was, at the time, the largest military operation launched pretty much in the history of man. It may still be, in fact, the largest, depending on exactly how you measure it. So anyway, we started off with the initial invasion of the Soviet Union, starting off in June, then went to the Operation Typhoon, which was the Germans pausing, regrouping, and making a centralized push right at Moscow. This is in October and November 1941. And then finally, the first big Soviet counterattacks in December of the same year.
Right, and whenever the article series finished, where did the article series end here?
The article series ended, like I said, with the first big Soviet counterattacks in December, specifically December 5th, 1941. So yeah, it only does like the first 5 months of the war. There's a lot more that could have been done, but of course we wanted to wrap up the article series at a certain point.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we're just scanning through here. It looks as if you guys have built some really cool tables to actually play this out on. Where did you get most of your terrain from, or was it a lot of scratch-built stuff you were working with?
The terrain. Okay, the terrain is mostly built myself. I do have some Dave Graffam downloadable terrain for some of the buildings. You just download a PDF. You can scale it to whatever. You can scale the PDF files, and he has a great scale. That's kind of a silly way to put it. He's got a great set of numbers. So he says, okay, if you're building 20 millimeter, take this PDF and shrink it to say 75%.
Yeah.
If you're doing a 10 millimeter, go to 30% or whatever the correlation happens to be. And you print it out, you glue it together, you put a little bit of paint on it wherever you need it, just to cover up some of the fold lines, and it looks pretty good on the tabletop.
Yeah, no, I remember a few years back we were working with some of the Dave Graffam stuff. It was actually really fun to work on. I think the one thing that annoyed me was just getting some of the tiny little cuts around the corners and stuff, but they do make really nice buildings at the end up.
Yep, it's very effective as well when you see it, especially in the article series.
Yeah. Right, well, James, as well as having done the article series, in the forums, you've actually played out each of the battles, haven't you? So each of the encounters through the series.
Right. Okay, well, in a lot of these articles, obviously there just isn't nearly enough room to include all the material we want. So over the last year or so, what we've done is we've started to set up these threads on the side. running in parallel with the articles themselves. So this time I thought I'd include a more detailed series of battle reports for all the big tabletop games, which were run for the game. Which were run for the articles. Of course, by the time you put in all the history and the discussion for and the game design material in the articles, there just isn't any room for like a blow-by-blow battle report of the game. So we just took a lot of photographs and we put them over in the forum threads over on the side. Mostly in the form of a lot of photos and captions. So rather than like the wall of text that you get in a lot of battle reports with maybe a couple photos, there's something like 220, maybe 250 photos in that thread, making it almost a graphic novel, as some people describe it.
You see,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm seeing them sitting here, and I'm actually really liking the way you've done it, because you've got that big sort of red and black comic book text just screaming out actions and stuff, and then you've got the more detailed bits in beneath with the nicely painted minis and all the cool tables in behind it. It's really, really cool the way you've done this.
Oh, I appreciate it. The Eastern Front can be such like a heavy topic because of the ferocity of the fighting and everything that happened in the course of those battles and campaigns. That, especially given the scale of the battle reports that we wanted to feature in the forums, we wanted to have it with at least some kind of a flair or sense of humor or something to kind of lighten up the material a little bit.
Right. Well, quick question then. The battles you played, how did they go? How did Mother Russia do in Operation Barbarossa this time round?
Out of the 5, that's actually an interesting question. Out of the 5 battles that we feature in that report, the Soviet players, sometimes I was playing the Soviet players, sometimes my opponents were playing the Soviets. They actually won 3 out of the 5. So believe it or not, they actually came out on top, which is in pretty, it was definitely in contravention to what happened historically. Now do bear in mind that one of the things that you really kind of have to get good at if you're going to do like deep and detailed historical wargaming is the whole idea of like asymmetrical victory conditions. The battle, because you're trying to get, the war is almost never fair.
Yes.
So you want to make the battles as faithful and as historically accurate as possible, which means the battle will never be fair. But obviously you want the game to be fair, so you have to, like almost like a handicap, you have to throw in some asymmetrical victory conditions.
Yeah.
So the Soviet armies on those tables were almost always destroyed really, really badly. But the Germans have to cover so much ground. They have to take almost no losses in the process. They have to do it in a very short amount of time. They're up against all these very high benchmarks. And what we were able to do is get some really challenging games. And the Germans didn't, they only won 2 out of the 5 games in the series.
Yeah, now, I do like that idea that you can have those sort of disparate forces on the tabletop. So, masses of Soviet armor versus a small, highly elite set of Germans, waves and waves of the Soviets falling over and dying while the Germans are just trying to push forward, hold ground, and actually not take too many losses. It's a very, very cool way to play it, James. I really do like the idea of this.
Well, yeah, all these games were played in Battle Group, specifically Battle Group Barbarossa. And in Battle Group Barbarossa, say that 10 times fast, they do have some special rules that help you recreate some of the real difficulties and shortcomings that the Red Army was dealing with in those first months of the Eastern Front.
Yeah. Well, John, you yourself, from what you know of Operation Barbarossa, what were some of the biggest issues that the Russians would have been facing?
Oh, geez. A lot of those major issues that the Russian army had wasn't really technological. It was in a fact, but I think the biggest problems was that after Stalin's purges, a lot of your NCOs, a lot of your junior officers and stuff just did not want to take the initiative if they had it in front of them, because they thought, if I think for myself, that's going to make me look bad to Uncle Joe, and he's not going to be very happy with me if I go out and do something that's extraordinary. So a lot of the Russian military, I guess, fallbacks at the time were just down to people going, I don't want to become outstanding. I don't want to be noticed by anyone important. So we're just going to keep following the party line. We're going to keep following what everyone else is doing. And that ended up being a lot of fallbacks and a lot of retreats.
Yeah.
Whereas the Germans were just, their NCOs at the time in the early war sections were completely told, if you see an opportunity, take it. Use the initiative. Get in there. And that went right down to NCO level. Corporals and that were able to turn around and say, my sergeant's just died, but I know what I'm doing. And he'll continue the attack on forward. Whereas the Russians were just going, no, let's just keep doing everything back. Of course, the technology fell over as well, like the early tanks and anti-tank guns and stuff weren't really capable.
Like, would they have still been running the old BT-7 series and stuff at this point?
The
or would
Russians
they have actually had T-34 rolling out?
James, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think T-34 wasn't really seen until late 41, early 42, am I right?
I think at the when Barbarossa first hit on June 22nd, 41, the Soviet Red Army tank force was the largest on the. They had more tanks than anybody else in the world. In fact, all other armies in the world put together, something like 23,000 tanks, but less than 1,000 of those were the T-34s, and even those were earlier versions of the T-34s than the classic T-34 76 that we see. They had a shorter gun barrel, no radios in the turrets, no dedicated gunners in the turrets. So the commander had to fire the gun himself. Very bad ammunition stowage. This was definitely, the alpha and beta versions, so to speak, of the T-34. And there weren't very many of them, like 5%. Badly used, spread all over the place. Earlier Justin was hitting it on the head. You've got a lot of BT-7s, BT-5s, and also T-26 A's and B's. There really is a wide spectrum. There's all kinds of Soviet armor models that you see early in Barbarossa, and a lot of them are kind of, not very good at all.
Yeah. So we were seeing that classic thing again of what happened whenever the attack came through the Ardennes. The technology that the Russians had just hadn't caught up with where Germany was at, and I'll assume they were able just to tear shreds out of them and just push and push and push.
Why are you mentioning the Ardennes?
The Ardennes, why?
Why are you mentioning the Ardennes?
Or sorry, am I thinking of the wrong place?
Yes, you are. You're thinking of Belgium.
Oh, sorry. No, you see, I'm thinking that it's similar to what happened whenever Germany first made its invasion into France through the Ardennes.
Yeah.
The French, they didn't have the technology up to scratch to actually face up against them.
Okay, I got you.
And we had the same again on the Russian side.
Yeah, and another thing is, like John was mentioning, the purges in 36 and 37. The ratio, or the amount of high-level officers that were either killed or imprisoned or fired, going down the line, starting at the very top, is horrifying. I mean, all of the generals of to equivalate, say, like, or in an analogous way of looking at it, all the 5-star generals, 90% of the 4-star generals, 80% of the 3-star generals, going on down. You pretty much decapitate the entire Red Army, and then there's like this wave of early promotions. So not only, like John was saying before, does no one want to take the initiative, you have an entire officer corps, pretty much at all levels, that's crazy unqualified. I mean, guys who were a sergeant on Monday are now a lieutenant colonel commanding a battalion on Friday, because everyone above him has been executed or imprisoned. And to show how much the Soviets knew they had kind of screwed up in this regard. Right before Barbarossa hits, and in those first months of Barbarossa, it's National Rebate Day in the gulags. They open up the gates and they take whatever generals they have left. They're like, sorry about all that. We didn't mean to, take your rank and imprison you and torture you and all this stuff. Here's your uniform back. Let's go ahead and pick up where you left off. By the way, the country's collapsing, so we hope you can, help us out with this.
Really?
Yeah, that was basically it.
Yeah, but you then have an officer class who is coming in being incredibly jaded, going, if I mess up here, I'm back to the gulag.
Yeah, but you also have an officer class that's thinking, I've just been taken out of the gulag, I don't want to go back there, so I've got to perform my uttermost.
Fair point. You probably have both ends of the spectrum on that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, it's a very interesting point in history whenever Germany makes that first push into Russia. I think it was one of the most stupid things that Hitler could have done during the war, to actually try and, wake up the Red Bear. If he had focused and actually finished up Europe, then had that just sewn up, gave America nowhere to land, and then turned across the way, he might have had a better time of it.
If you're going to theory craft,
I
think Germany should have hit Russia first.
Really?
I think that should have been the very first blitzkrieg.
Right.
Because you were looking at the times Russia, was it the German-Soviet pact where they were training each other and they were helping each other out. They should have stopped that really quickly when they were getting into the mid to late 30s, and they should have went Russia first. It's the biggest opponent we're going to have militarily. If we can seal that up, no one in the West is going to care, because communism isn't very popular in the West.
Actually, a very fair point.
And, ideology-wise, they're going to look at it and go, well, fascism isn't that bad. Look what it's done to communism. It's wiped out this giant threat that's in the east of Europe.
Yeah. What do you think yourself, James?
Yeah, I was going to say, from the German perspective, Operation Barbarossa can be looked at as like the real start of World War II in some ways. Everything up until then, Poland, Scandinavia, France, and then in 1940, the West, the Balkans, even North Africa, are the Germans sort of setting up the chessboard or dealing with annoyances and distractions that they really would rather not be dealing with, especially when you get into the Balkans and North Africa. But before they can really sink their teeth into what was the real geostrategic goal of the war, I mean, as early as 1920, I mean, Hitler was a lot of things. Was he really a liar? He wrote down everything he wanted to do in a book. It was widely published. The main focus geostrategically for the Germans in World War II is we're going to not just conquer, we are going to absolutely ethnically empty this vast swath of the Ukraine, Belarus, the western part of Russia, the Baltic states, everything else, up to, like, say, Moscow or the Urals or the Volga River. And that's going to be our new backyard. That's going to be literally our new space where they called it Lebensraum, they called it living space. That was their main focus of the war. Everything else was either settling scores from World War I or making sure that no one else was going to cause a problem for them, while they were making this main push to the east. So as far as, should the Germans have just gone straight into the east, like right in 1939, 1940? Possibly. The only thing I can think of is that maybe, if you had left France alone, France might have done something. France did actually invade Germany in 1939. Not very many people know this. They did invade Germany very half-heartedly. They marched in like 2 or 3 miles. They dropped some artillery, and then, okay, we tried. France did invade Germany, and while the Germans were invading Poland, perhaps they were afraid of a repeat of that on a more decisive level. But Russia was definitely their main axis of advance, their main goal.
Well, I mean, like, it's one of those things that at the start of the war, everybody was sitting there going, don't kind of want to just end up getting into trench warfare again. This was incredibly unpopular with everybody across the planet by the end up.
The main issue was the League of Nations, which was set up after the First World War, which is essentially the anti-German version of what we now have as NATO. And NATO was set up to, basically harangue communism.
Yeah.
The League of Nations was basically done to harangue any sort of German power that would expand again, or any expansionist power in Europe. And the problem with the League of Nations was that it was led by a lot of people that didn't want another world war. They had one of the biggest guns they could pull. They had every army of the West, but they were too scared to press the button, so to speak. And because if they did that, that was going to be another world war. They were assured of that. So, and Hitler, rather geniusly as well, played against that. He said, we're going to take the Ruhr back. And then he looked over his shoulder to see what the League of Nations was doing, and they went, okay. He said, we're going to take Czechoslovakia, and he walked into that, and he looked over his shoulder again, and they went, okay.
He got away with it for a while. He had the Rhineland in 1936, then Austria, then part of Czechoslovakia, then the rest of Czechoslovakia.
Yep.
He got away with it for a while. He was, from what I've read, he was not expecting to go to war in September of 1939.
Yeah. I mean,
he's like, I'm going to go into Poland, and they're going to wring their hands again. And finally, fifth time is the charm. Finally, the Western Allies said, "No, we're actually going to declare war now." So, I think Hitler was actually kind of surprised when that finally happened.
Yeah, because his generals had said that they didn't want, or they weren't going to be prepared for a major conflict until, was it 1942?
They weren't even close to being ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only possible counter argument to the whole, maybe they should have gone into Russia first. Like you were saying earlier, I would agree 95%, and the 5% is, wow. I mean, we've said this 100 times in 100 different articles and such, is how ill prepared Germany was and how weak Germany actually was while they were winning the war. I mean, even when things were doing well for the Germans, they were incredibly, Panthers and Tigers, we're not out yet.
Yeah.
They were still running around in these almost laughable little, tractors that they call tanks. And to go up against the Soviet Union at that point, maybe they could have gotten away with it because nobody really knew how weak the Soviets were yet. The Soviets thought they could conquer Finland, or at least, force territorial concessions out of Finland in November 1939 into 1940. And at the end of that war, one of their big marshals, I think it was Timoshenko, said, "You know what we've done? We've barely won enough land with which to bury our dead." The Red Army was in terrible shape in those days as well.
I have a feeling as well that when, in 1939, well, if Germany had wrapped up every political and land gain that it had before it went into Poland, I think we might have seen a Germany that was more prepared. And as we were saying, that the Russian forces just weren't ready for it at the time, like when they were looking at Finland, and Finland was able to completely kick their ass. I mean, this is an army they didn't even consider to be that professional in the Finnish. And the Finnish were just sat there.
Like 9 divisions, very, very small, and not very technologically advanced at the time. But on the defense, fighting on their home ground, they were definitely prepared, and they definitely did a lot of damage to the Soviets trying to come into Finland.
Yeah. All right. Well, gents, I think we call it that. James, once again, fantastic article series with Barbarossa. I cannot wait to see what you come up with next. Really interesting chat about just the war in general and the theatres in general. Everybody, tell you what, drop your comments in below. Maybe actually give us a couple of suggestions. Where would you maybe like to see James take the war next for his article series? We'll move on here, and we'll see you later.
Take it easy.
In a world controlled by massive corporations, a steady aim and split-second decisions are needed for your megacon to complete its goals. Begin your missions at the Mercs Hub on beastsofwar.com. Venture into the dangerous dungeons of myth as a mighty hero and stand against the darkness. Visit the Myth Hub on beastsofwar.com and begin your story.
Okay, let's round out the show by taking a look at a couple of Kickstarters. First up, we have Dreadball Season 2.
Not Season 2, Version 2.
Version 2!
So, let me clear this up for you, okay? So, Dreadball already has, I think, something like 6 seasons out.
Yes.
The seasons are where they expand on the universe and add new teams and new rules to it.
Yep.
This is now Dreadball 2.0, where they're coming back, drawing all of those 6 seasons into one condensed book.
Yep.
And retweaking the rules to actually clean and tidy everything up, okay?
Okay, yep.
So this is Dreadball 2.0, not Dreadball Season 2.
Let's have a look at the Kickstarter page.
All right. Well, the Kickstarter page is actually doing incredibly well. They're at 133,000 already.
Yeah.
They have 10 days left to go at the time of filming, and things are looking really, really cool for this game. So anyone that remembers our series Dreadball Academy that Warren and James did ages and ages ago will know how to play this game.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to play, it's basically a future sports game where it's 2 teams facing off against each other, slamming into each other, working with super high-tech stuff, and trying to score more goals than the opponents.
Is this going to make that series redundant?
Possibly.
Parts of it, anyway.
Parts of it, anyway. I mean, like, the main core of it's still going to work.
Yeah.
But from what I can tell, the rules are getting a major cleanup during this Kickstarter. So all the FAQs and erratas. It's something I always say, as soon as a game hits market, that's when you hit your ultimate playtest, because that's when everybody has it in their hands, and that's where any flaws are going to be found out. So
okay,
it's going to be interesting to see how this goes.
Ben, let's come to you.
Yeah, so this really interesting new stuff that they're working on for this one. Obviously, you're going to get yourself the new base game and stuff like that comes with the Striker Pledge. Inside there, instead of having the sort of standard humans and orcs that we've been seeing in humans and marauders, that we saw before, we're actually going to be involving a robot team this time. So you've got the Draconis All-Star Robots and the Ninth Moon Tree Shark Indige team, which is very, very cool.
Both of which we talked about a couple of weeks ago on the show here.
Yeah.
We're really digging the look of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very nice indeed. And one of the other things as well that's coming with this pledge is actually quite cool, and we've talked about this a little bit before, is that they're actually going to be including Dreadball 2 Ultimate as well in there as well. So you get the rulebook and the team guides for all the different things that are out there at the moment. So even if you're playing sort of one of the more weirder teams, you'll still be able to get stuck in and play with the game.
Now,
you don't just have to try and start again with the robots or anything
this
like
is
that,
relevant, though, because we have the old board here in front of us. Now, one of the things I like about the Kickstarter is the new style of the board. The actual player is the same, but it's the surround. If you could hold that up for me, Justin.
Hold this up. So this is the original board, right?
Yep.
So you had your two sides. You had down here was your injury bench, and in here was your basically your bench where people could come in from. All right.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So it's very clean, very straightforward. You had your two tracks to track your turns and track your score, which worked on that nice sliding scale.
But one of the things that sticks out straight away is I love the new board layout.
Yeah. So this
Just the styling of putting all the cards and stuff in their slots.
Yeah.
It's just all really neat looking, and that just tickles my. It just tickles me. This goes here, this goes there. Everything's nice and organized.
Mm-hmm. You see, one of the things I like most about this is that this is now a double-sided board. So if I'm scrolling down here to try and find it just very quickly.
This is why I brought it up, because you mentioned, Ben, Dreadball Ultimate. What they've done is rather smart, because on one side you have this, and on the other side you have the Ultimate pitch, so you can play both.
Yeah, and the key difference is your regular Dreadball is a two-player game, whereas Dreadball Ultimate, you can play up to 6-player on this.
Yeah.
So things get absolutely insane.
That does sound insane. 6 teams facing off against each other all at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah, you also
cool.
get to drop in a whole bunch of the bigger characters and stuff like that as well. So you've got some of the big guys and stuff to play with when you get to the ultimate level of things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are there new big guys and stuff coming up as pledge goals and stuff on this?
Well, there are a few new things coming. So you've got some new coaches that are coming along. I believe there's 2 currently in the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And you're also getting a new sort of rank within the team, the captain miniature. So you're going to have some of the older guys who you would have been bringing in as freelancers who are going to be upgraded to the captain's rank, which is going to give them some extra bits during the game, which is quite cool.
Ben, have you seen any particular stretch goals and things? I'm trying to get to the juicy bits here of the Kickstarter that you guys have been looking at.
Yeah, so one of the big things that's coming up in terms of the stretch goal is actually another one of the new teams that's coming. So you've got the Matsudan, who have been sort of added after some of the backer goals and stuff that people are looking for. So the Matsudan are going to be those big sumo lizards that we'd seen before in some of the concept art and things like that. Mm-hmm. They're also going to be bringing in a whole bunch of different things like new MVPs and stuff for the new teams, because obviously the sports robots are going to be a big thing nowadays and stuff like that. Yeah. And also some extra players and stuff as well. Yeah.
Really it is looking really cool.
Now, the Dreadball counters and stuff that we're looking at, this is all new as well?
Yep, this is all new as well. They've also done a bit of a redesign on their basis, if I can quickly find it here as well. So, if you want to chat a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so the base design now has been designed so that you can actually pop the ball into the front of it as well. So it's been made effectively so it makes things a lot easier, and it means that you're not going to have the hassle of who got the ball, who hasn't got the ball, and stuff like that. So it's a nice little simple thing, which is very cool. So,
it's just one of those little things. They've actually redesigned the front to be clear on which side is the front of your miniature.
Yeah.
Yes,
and that little peg in the front is really useful as well, because I remember playing Dreadball, and I was never done, but I was trying to put the teeny little ball onto the side of my base, moving my guy and having it fall off.
I believe they're doing something similar with Blood Bowl.
Yeah, so the new edition of Blood Bowl that's coming out towards the end of this year actually does something very similar to that. So you've got the round bases, not clear ones, but they do have a sort of pinhole in the front of the base so that you can put the ball on there. So it seems a lot of companies are twigging that this is a really frustrating thing for people who play fantasy football games.
Well, there you go, great minds and all, thinking alike.
Yeah,
indeed. Yeah,
if it works for one, it's going to work for the other.
Yeah, why not?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's nice to see this, and I'm loving some of the designs, because if we look at the new robot team that's actually coming out for these guys, you can see the care and attention that's going into this. So you've got I believe this is probably going to be a striker just because of the gear he's got.
Yeah.
See that gauntlet on his right arm there? That's meant to actually catch the ball and let him fling it away from himself.
Yeah.
They're very, very cool, and I love the concept design for these. I think if I do end up grabbing this, it is going to be the robot side that I'm going to play first.
Yeah, I can see why you'd go for that, because I'm loving the mask and stuff in this.
Mm-hmm.
And just the sheer presence.
Yeah,
the big wide shoulders and stuff. I'm really coming in to get you.
Well, we've got some really nice artwork, and you can see one of the guys just diving for that ball. It's one of those ideas of Dreadball that the thing is constantly on the go. There is no stopping during this game. There is no downtime, which is one of the things I love, because I find there are some board games I play where you have a little bit of a speed bump moment where you're just going, what do I do next?
Yeah.
Whereas with Dreadball, you always know what's coming next, because as soon as you score, that ball straight back out there, straight back in play. If you're out of position and your opponent's ahead of you, you're going to pay for it.
It's cool.
You constantly need to think ahead.
I like the robot faction as well. We're going to have a dust up over this, Justin, see who gets it. Because I like robots. I think everyone's catching on to the fact that Lloyd likes robots.
Yeah.
Because even my Destiny character, I've gone for the robotic looking stuff.
Oh yeah, you went for an exo?
Yeah, because I just love the shape of the mouths and stuff, and these have that kind of
That
feel to them, which is really cool.
Well, I mean, like, I think one of the things I'm most looking forward to for this game is now Mantic are actually doing these as out of the box. You can just pick it up and play, because in the original set, in fact, I actually have it here. If I grab it, they had their miniatures that you had to build them. So, you would have been sticking the guys here.
Yeah.
And whenever these first came out, you would have had to stick the arms onto this guy. So
Okay.
board gamers aren't used to that.
Yep.
It's something that they found. So now they're actually moving it so that everything is pre-built or at least cast in a single piece when it comes out of the box.
So they're really going for the let's meet people's expectations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, it's something that a board gamer is not used to. They expect a gaming token, not a miniature, So they're not expecting to have to build and actually paint the thing. They're expecting just to open the box up, pick it up, and play.
Yeah.
They actually got people calling them saying, guys, my stuff came to me and it was broken. It was just unbuilt.
There wasn't that many parts to put together.
Yeah, I know, but it's because of that board gamer mentality. I'm expecting a gaming token, not a gaming miniature.
Well, it works for me. I like the idea of cracking it open and being able to play. Just like the Undercity we played last week.
Yeah.
If we had to sit and build all those minis, it would have been another barrier to entry. So
Yeah,
it's
but
the way to go.
see, normally whenever you have someone that's picking up the game to actually play with their friends, you'll find that they'll do the work themselves. You won't just... What? How many times have I actually built stuff for us in here?
It's the man. The man.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's what you expect. The person who's picking it up is going to do that work. But whenever it's a board gamer that's not expecting that, it's hitting that brick wall going, huh? What? What's meant to go on here?
Yeah.
So it's
You're
lowering that
sitting
barrier
going,
to entry.
What is that? That's a torso. Is there anything else to that torso? Yeah, it's in the box.
Aye.
I'm playing Torso Ball.
Torso. Coming soon as an expansion for Dreadball 2, Lloyd's creation, Torso Ball!
Right.
Ta-da!
Awesome stuff. Well funded. About 8 days left.
It's got about a week left.
About 7 days or something.
About a week left-ish.
Yeah. Right, let's move on. Because there's another really cool Kickstarter I want to talk about. Fate of the Elder Gods. Now, this Kickstarter has a video that's short and sweet, but really sucked me into it. I was like, you watch their video, and you'll have the flavor of this game down to a T, because it's all Lovecraftian stuff, it's Cthulhu stuff, but unlike most games set in the Cthulhu sort of world where you're fighting off the Elder Gods and stuff, you get to be the bad guys.
Yeah,
which suits me down to the ground. You could probably see there were a few comments from last week saying Lloyd just wants to be the evil overlord. And with this, I'm thinking, I could be the evil overlord.
Yes, but Lloyd,
trying to summon my Elder God.
in this one, we're all the evil ones.
Damn it. We're all going to be evil.
Yeah, so in this game, you are playing the cultists following one of the Elder Gods from the H.P. Lovecraft mythos, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a really lovely new take on this type of game, because instead of trying to stop the Elder Ones from being risen, you're trying to raise your particular Elder God, because there are multiple ones. So it's not just Cthulhu, the big tentacly guy. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and that's what interests me about this as well, because a lot of the time, H.P. Lovecraft, it's all Cthulhu. Cthulhu. I love the fact that each cult has a particular god they're trying to resurrect, rather than just sticking to that. I'm going to bring Ben in, because I'm sure he's chomping at the bit.
All right, go ahead, Ben.
One of the things I like, Ben, is I like the layout of the board and stuff. Like, it all looks really simple to play, but really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, so the main basis behind this is this whole fate clock mechanic, which is the board that you see there, and the main sort of driving force behind this is area control. So it's all about taking control of these different regions with your cultists that you've summoned and stuff like that, and doing the actions that are beneficial from these different areas. If you have majorities within these certain areas as well, you'll be able to get extra bonuses and stuff like that. And as you do all these sort of things, spells are added to the game as well, which like these little runic things on the edges, and you'll be playing cards and stuff to activate spells to banish cultists and stuff like that. And one of the big things as well of this that is really quite cool is that they've actually included a lot of investigators in this that will be trying to stop you as you do things. So they'll be popping up on these different regions and sort of stopping you getting the majority and things like that, and then maybe coming to your little coven where you're trying to summon your elder god and stuff as well, which is really cool.
I was interested in that as well. The idea that you don't just get to do whatever the heck you want. People are taking notice.
Yeah, the game is trying to stop you.
I'm gathering up cultists and stuff, and investigators are taking notice. That cult's getting really big. Let's go and investigate that. I believe you're thinking that's exciting too, Justin.
Yeah, well, if we look at the board here, what you can see is, you see the way there are investigators in every single space here?
Yeah, they'd be the cream-coloured ladies.
Yeah, every time you play one of the cards to where the Cthulhu miniature is here, that miniature moves to the corresponding symbol from the card, right?
Yeah.
That means you are activating that location on the board.
So you mean them colour half moons, essentially?
Yeah, you see the little symbol in front of the half moons?
Yeah,
that matches the cards.
Yeah, I'm just saying the colour half
there.
moons because it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, so that'll move to there, and that's you activating that location.
Yeah.
But the first thing that happens is you'll get an investigator who turns up there, and one of your cultists, because the investigators, they're not slow. They know, look, something shady's going on here. Why are there weird lights in the museum tonight? What's going on here? So that obviously they will come and investigate.
Yes.
The problem is, if you try and activate a space too often, you'll get too many investigators there, and they're clever enough that they will follow you home.
Yeah.
And if you get too many investigators snooping around outside your cultist lodge, they'll activate a raid, which is actually...
And if we scroll back up, there's these cool little booklet type things, and they mark your progress on trying to... Here we go.
Yeah, so this is your
call
Elder
your
God
god, resurrect your god.
Yeah, this is your Elder God card. Basically, first person to get to 10 summons their Elder God, right? Unfortunately, whenever a raid happens, you're going to roll the dice that come in this, which are nice customized ones, which actually have Cthulhu symbols and Elder sign symbols. You roll Elder sign symbols, that's bad for you, because you're going to actually start to get Elder signs marked off on your tracker.
Yeah.
And once that gets actually completely marked off, that can end the game.
No, you've blocked me.
Yeah, which means that whoever then has the least Elder signs is the least suspicious, and then gets to continue their nefarious plottings without arousing more suspicion, because the investigators think, oh, we've caught this evil cult. They were the ones that were trying to do all the bad stuff. We've caught them now. Everything's safe. Everything's happy in the world.
Yeah.
So you win by having the least, being the least suspicious.
Now,
Or you can summon your god.
I wanted to actually mention something actually about the miniatures, because they're actually really nice, these, in terms of board game miniatures. They're not going to be sort of the standard fare that you might find in most. They've actually taken a lot of cues from the likes of Blood Rage and sort of the things that, happen in Zombicide and stuff like that when it comes to the miniature production.
Yeah.
So they're actually putting a lot of effort into the cultist design and the investigators, because you get a couple of different sets of them as well. So you've got male and female ones as well. So it's all very cool, and there's a lot of sort of work and effort gone into making this a very good-looking project as well as a very fun one as well.
Any particular stretch goals sticking out on this one? I mean, are there other investigator miniatures and things to be unlocked as stretch goals?
Oh, no.
Are there other Elder Gods to be unlocked as miniatures
This is
or anything?
Cthulhu. There's Griblies to be unlocked.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because you've got the Meagle miniatures as soon as they hit 90k that they're going to be fit to unlock.
Oh, yeah.
We've already got the resin dice unlocked. They're currently working on the Black Core and Box UV, whatever that is. What else
I have
we
no
got
idea.
here?
They're also adding another god as well to this as you sort of slowly go down there as well, which is really cool. So,
The UVs is just a coating, right? Just to make particular parts of the board shine and other parts not.
So it's to make it look more pretty.
Yes, it's prettifying.
There's also a Shoggoth miniature they're trying to work in as well, and everything else is clouded in the mists of the Elder Gods.
The Shoggoth miniature just looks like a load of doo-doo.
Yeah,
You just scrape that up off the street and stick it on the board.
Yeah.
one of the other interesting
Varnish
things
it.
about this is that while it's also a 4-player game at its maximum, you can actually also play this game by yourself. And I'm really interested to see how that works, because I think that's a really interesting angle to this, to have that solo aspect to it as well. So it'd be really good to see how that works out, because on all the reviews, it's all been very sort of like 2 and 3 player stuff.
I don't know.
Like to see
I don't know if I'd want to play this by myself, because then I would be the only evil overlord with all my minions.
But Lloyd, I can be more evil than you.
Well, we're talking about being evil and stuff. Now, one of the things they raise in the video is they're saying the game doesn't go too dark. That's interesting to play it.
Yeah.
They've got my attention, and they're saying we haven't gone too dark because we want to make a miserable game.
Yeah, well,
So I think I'm hoping they've got the balance of this just right.
if you've ever read any H.P. Lovecraft, things do get really bad really quickly sometimes, So you see the wrong thing and suddenly your sanity is gone and broken. And by the way, there's blood on the walls. How did that get on my hands? Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that actually is quite good in this is that they've tried to set it apart from other sort of darker Cthulhu games. Is the actual art style itself has that cartoon nature to it, which I really like. So you have, you've got these guys are definitely cultists. They're bad people, but they've got that comic edge to them, which I think means that it's a little bit lighter and it'll appeal to a lot more people, I think. So
yeah, I love the art style.
Yeah, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
I mean, it sums it up with the cultists. And where are they, in a graveyard or something in that piece of art?
They are at their summoning site. So it's basically, you've got a couple of pieces of artwork there from the actual board. So the one you're looking at is the one that's their summoning site, so where they take care of their dark and mysterious rituals. The other one is one of the streets within the town where the investigators are normally hanging about.
Yeah.
So it's once you go to that one, you can actually start shifting the investigators, sort of passing them bad information, going, oh, no, we're not the bad people. They're 2 blocks down. They're in that house. They're in that house. Go check them out.
Yeah. Really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I think that wraps it up. It's been quite a long show. We need to move on. We need to get ready for the backstage show. If you want to join us tomorrow, it's an extra... It's a whole other episode of this show. It helps fund the website. It's in behind backstage. It's a little bit of a paywall, but it's not very much. And there's a 7-day free trial. And then once you're in there, we have painting tutorials and hobby lab tutorials and other shows that
battle
have
reports,
extra
live
episodes.
blogs,
yeah, all
like
sorts of stuff.
And the Designer Studio, which is one of my favorite series we've ever done.
Yes, where we interview designers of particular games and find out what they were thinking anyway. Right, I'm not going to keep you. Go and have a great day's gaming, but if you've enjoyed the show, come on over and check out Backstage, and then we'll see you tomorrow.
Fight for the Iron Kingdoms as a Warcaster. Take control of the mighty jacks, arcane devices, and dark sorceries to bring the fight to the Warmachine Hub on beastsofwar.com. Keep your blaster handy, the West is a dangerous place. Fight to survive as men turn to monsters and the dead rise on the Wild West Exodus Hub at beastsofwar.com.
Boom, 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 boom. Ooh!
Oh dear.